Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're cutting straight into 6 pivotal stories. These offer some unique insights into our world, spanning global geopolitics, urban governance, legal autonomy,
Medical breakthroughs, too.
right, medical breakthroughs, military tech, and even, those hidden microscopic battles impacting public health. We've distilled these narratives from today's editorials, opinion pieces, scientific reports, and news texts. The aim is really to give you a comprehensive understanding of what's shaping our present and, well, our future.
Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, West Asia. Our first source, it's an editorial, describes the region as undergoing a profound reset. It points to a significant de-escalation for the world following a major event, the bombing of Iran by Israel and the United States.
And the reaction, or maybe the lack of reaction, is what's striking.
Exactly. The article observes that nearly all countries in the region, and even beyond, offered tacit or open approval, even Russia and China. Despite their big strategic partnerships with Iran, they just stayed silent.
Watched from the sidelines. It suggests a deliberate decision, doesn't it? Not to interfere as Iran and its proxies were, well, dismantled.
So what does this new landscape really mean for the regional balance of power then?
Well, a key aspect is how the Iranian nuclear threat, perceived now as largely neutralized, effectively leaves Israel as the sole dominant nuclear power in West Asia.
Right.
And this new reality is cemented by, 40,000 American troops, plus all the air and sea assets. It pretty much ensures no military challenge to Israel's position.
Okay.
If you step back, many Gulf countries initially feared Iran and its proxies, maybe even more than Israel. And this vulnerability, it actually pushed them to align with Israel and the U.S.
Encouraging action against Iranian proxies.
Yeah, in places like Lebanon, Syria, Gaza. But the article poses a really crucial question. Do these Gulf states truly welcome in Israel without any checks on its power? It suggests probably not. An unconstrained Israel could bring its own kind of instability.
That's a really interesting angle. Now, while this was happening, Iran did hit back. They targeted U.S. military bases in Qatar and Iraq, claiming it was a proportional response.
Which could have spiraled easily.
For sure. But then the U.S. made a surprising announcement. An immediate ceasefire between Israel and Iran. The source calls this a moment of reason, basically giving Iran an off-ramp, a way to back down after showing it wouldn't be completely, intimidated.
So one fire damped down.
But the article warns another crisis is already brewing. It points to the resurgence of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's domestic political standing and his long-held vision of Eretz Israel. That map he waved at the UN showing no Gaza or West Bank. The article even speculates annexation plans could happen really soon. Maybe even this year.
Which brings up a huge question. If Palestinian territories are annexed, what path does Israel choose? Does it become an apartheid state by design, prioritizing its Jewish identity, making Palestinians second-class citizens? Or does it genuinely embrace democracy, extending equal rights?
And history suggests.
History, the source notes, leans towards the former. And while many Gulf leaders seem to have largely given up pushing for a Palestinian state as a condition for stability, the ongoing human cost in Gaza might force them to rethink that.
In India's position.
Also interesting, its call for de-escalation sort of implicitly equates the aggressor and the aggressed. The source draws a parallel to advice India itself received during Operation Sindoor, a past Indian military response. India's approach is clearly nuanced, influenced by its regional interests, like the Chabahar port link with Iran.
Okay, let's pivot. We're moving from global geopolitics to India's dynamic urban landscape now, drawing from another editorial. This source highlights India's profound urban transformation. It predicts that by 2050, over 800 million people, that's roughly half the population, will live in cities.
Making India the biggest driver of global urban growth. Huge numbers.
Absolutely. And India has made progressive strides constitutionally speaking. The 73rd and 74th Amendments mandated up to 50% reservation for women in local governments. So women now make up over 46% of elected representatives.
Which sounds great on paper.
Right, but here's the disconnect the article points out. The administrative side, the city managers, planners, engineers, police, the people who actually implement decisions, remains overwhelmingly male.
Yeah, the stats are stark. Women are only 20% of the Indian administrative service, just 11.7% of the national police force.
So why does this bureaucratic gender gap matter so much for how our cities actually work?
Well, one key implication is how inclusive our cities are, or aren't. Women interact with urban spaces differently, don't they? They rely more on public transport, make multi-stop journeys for work and caregiving, depend more on neighborhood infrastructure.
Like that study in Delhi and Mumbai.
Exactly. 84% of women used public or shared transport versus 63% of men. But planning often prioritizes, big mega projects over things like safe, accessible neighborhood mobility.
And the underrepresentation affects outcomes.
Definitely. The source emphasizes women officials bring perspectives shaped by lived reality. They often prioritize issues like water, health, safety. They can also improve public trust in law enforcement with more empathetic approaches. Basically, gender-sensitive design needs gender-diverse institutions. It's common sense, really.
Which leads us to this tool, gender-responsive budgeting, GRB. Often underutilized, the article says.
Right. It integrates gender considerations into public finance, recognizing budgets aren't neutral. India adopted a gender budget statement back in 2005-06.
And some states have tried things, like Delhi's women-only buses.
Yes, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Kerala have made efforts, funding women-only buses, public lighting. But the article notes many initiatives suffer from weak monitoring, limited capacity. They often end up being kind of tokenistic.
So how do other countries do it better? What can India learn?
While looking internationally, places like the Philippines mandate 5% of local budgets specifically for gender programs. Rwanda integrates GRB right into national planning with oversight bodies. It's not just about tweaking budgets, it's a fundamental rethink of citizen-centric governance.
It goes beyond just political quotas, then.
Absolutely. The source argues strongly that building inclusive cities means ensuring women's presence throughout the bureaucracy. Systemic reforms in recruitment, retention, promotion, maybe even affirmative action.
And there are global examples.
Plenty. Rwanda, Brazil, South Korea, Tunisia. They show how gender-balanced bureaucracies lead to real improvements. Better maternal health, sanitation, transit, public safety. At the end of the day, to build cities that work better for everyone, especially women, you have to build them with women.
Okay, shifting gears again. Now to a critical issue within India's legal system, from the opinion section. This source highlights a concerning move that really jolted the legal community recently.
The ED summons.
It's exactly. The Enforcement Directorate summoned senior advocate Arvind Dadar and later Pratap Venugopal. And the extraordinary thing, it wasn't for alleged collusion or misconduct. They were called simply to answer questions about legal opinions they'd given clients.
Which is highly unusual, to say the least.
Right. Dadar's summons was withdrawn quickly after strong protests. But the incident raises some really pressing questions about the professional autonomy of lawyers. Can a lawyer be questioned just for giving advice, with no hint of conspiracy?
Well, it directly challenges a core legal principle, doesn't it? Even if advice turns out to be incorrect, that shouldn't justify summoning an advocate unless there's actual prima facie evidence of conspiracy or something illicit.
And the law protects this communication.
It does. The Bharatiya Saksha Adhiniyam, the BSA 2023, which replaced the old Evidence Act, it explicitly protects communications between legal advisors and clients under Section 132. Disclosure requires the client's express consent. And the article stresses, in this case, there was no suggestion, not even indirectly, of any inducement or personal involvement by the senior advocate. It makes the summons seem unwarranted, maybe even a misuse of statutory powers.
The implications are pretty significant then. The right to counsel? It kind of becomes hollow if lawyers can be dragged into investigations just for doing their job, for advising a client.
It creates a chilling effect, a profound one.
Yeah, few would be willing to offer candid advice, especially on sensitive stuff. The Bar Council rules mandate advocates advise without fear or favor. This privilege isn't for the lawyer's benefit. It safeguards the administration of justice itself.
And the legal fraternity saw this not just as a one-off mistake.
No, they saw it as a direct threat to the profession's integrity, its independence, even the balance between the bar, the bench, and the executive. Today, it's a corporate lawyer. Tomorrow, maybe a criminal defense lawyer asked why they advise silence.
If we zoom out, courts have consistently held advocates need protection from harassment for doing their jobs. Wrong advice isn't culpability. Without respecting that boundary, the deterrent effect on candid legal counsel will be huge. It might shrink the pool of advocates willing to act without, deference to power.
Which weakens the rule of law itself.
Exactly. So the source calls for urgent systemic reform. Judicial clarification, maybe a ruling affirming lawyers can't be summoned just for advice without evidence of complicity. Bar councils need to assert their privileges, engage with agencies. Parliament might even need to consider statutorily reinforcing attorney-client privilege.
So drawing a clear line,
A clear, constitutional, unhesitating line to protect that vital autonomy.
Right. Now, let's dive into something really revolutionary in medicine from our science source. We're talking CAR T-cell therapy. It's a technique that retrains your own immune cells, T cells specifically, to recognize and destroy targets like cancer cells.
It's been a game changer for aggressive blood cancers. Remissions lasting months, even years.
And it's even being explored for severe autoimmune diseases like lupus. But the traditional method, it's quite involved, isn't it?
Very. You extract a patient's T cells, genetically engineer them in a lab using viruses, prep the patient with chemo, then reinfuse.
And the article points out it's slow, incredibly expensive, like 60, 70 lakh rupees in India, and complex, needs personalized harvesting, specialized facilities.
Big
But
hurdle.
what if?
Yeah.
What if you could do this whole process inside the body?
Well, that's exactly what this groundbreaking study in Science on June 19th explores, making CAR T cells in vivo, entirely inside the body.
Oh,
Instead of lab work, researchers delivered messenger RNA directly into circulating immune cells using tiny lipid nanoparticles, LNPs, based molecules.
okay.
And for precision, they added biological address labels, antibodies that bind specifically to CD8 plus T cells, the immune system's frontline killers.
So targeted delivery.
Precisely. And this formulation successfully reprogrammed T cells in mice and monkeys, led to rapid B cell depletion, tumor regression, all without personalized cell processing, viral vectors, or that lymphodepleting chemo.
Wow. So what are the really key advantages here, bypassing those traditional steps?
Oh, the advantages are potentially enormous. First, because they used mRNA, not viruses, the changes to the immune cells are temporary. That lowers the risk of permanent genetic side effects.
That's huge.
And crucially, it worked without lymphodepleting chemotherapy. That chemo wipes out existing immune cells, carries serious infection risks. It often makes traditional CAR-T unsafe for frail or elderly patients.
So safer and more accessible.
Potentially, yes. The study also introduced a new biodegradable component, lipid 829, designed for better tolerability, minimal liver side effects. And beyond cancer, in monkeys, the treatment depleted B cells almost completely. Then they gradually returned as mostly naive cells. That mirrors observations in human lupus trials, hints at an immune system reset without long-term immunosuppression.
Incredible potential.
And connecting it to the bigger picture. Because the formulation is standardized, just needs IV infusions, the procedure is more like a biologic drug infusion than a complex cell therapy protocol.
Which could dramatically reduce the need for specialized infrastructure.
Exactly. And trained specialists, that's a major constraint in places like India, with a high burden of B-cell cancers and rising autoimmune disorders.
But still early days.
Definitely. The source is clear. These findings are preclinical. Robust human trials are essential. We need to confirm safety, efficacy, long-term outcomes, especially with repeat dosing and large-scale manufacturing. But if future trials work out, this platform could truly transform who benefits from advanced immunotherapy, make it far more widely feasible.
Okay, let's shift back to geopolitics. We're diving deep into the specifics of those U.S. military strikes on 3 key Iranian nuclear facilities: Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan, back on June 21st. This is from a text source.
Right. President Trump described them as spectacular, claiming Iran's facilities were completely and totally obliterated.
At the core of these strikes, Operation Midnight Hammer, involved the B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, dropping those GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, MOPs, bunker busters.
Necessary because sites like Fordo are buried so deep underground, 80-90 meters estimated, beyond Israel's capability alone.
But what did the operation actually entail? It sounds complex.
Oh, the account is detailed. 7 B-2s flew quietly for 18 hours from the U.S. using decoy aircraft in a complex deception effort.
18 hours, wow.
The first B-2 dropped 2 30,000-pound GBU-57 MOPs on Fordo, the first operational use of that weapon. In total, 14 MOPs hit targets, plus over 24 Tomahawk cruise missiles from a U.S. submarine. About 75 precision weapons overall.
And the assessment. Did it work?
Initial reports said extremely severe damage and destruction, though some U.S. officials later expressed doubts about Fordo being completely destroyed. They noted even 12 bunker busters couldn't fully obliterate it, just severely damage it, take it off the table, so to speak.
Incredible tech. Let's talk about the B-2 itself, the stealth bomber. It's the only fully stealth aircraft in the U.S. fleet.
That's right. Each one cost over $2 billion, most expensive aircraft ever built, only 21 made, 19 still active. Iconic bat-like shape, low observability, hard for defenses to detect.
But there's a drawback mentioned.
A big one. They are extremely maintenance intensive. require 100 hours of maintenance for every single hour of flight, mostly to protect those radar-absorbing materials in special hangars.
100 hours for 1 hour flying.
Yep. And for this mission, they flew 37 hours nonstop, multiple mid-air refuelings, holds the record for the longest air combat mission.
And the MOP itself, the bunker buster, what's its capability?
Well, according to the USAF, it's designed specifically for reaching and destroying WMDs in well-protected facilities, can penetrate up to 200 feet underground before exploding, and the B-2 is the only plane that can carry these massive 30,000-pound bombs.
So, connecting this to the bigger picture, the stated goal wasn't regime change.
No, the U.S. Secretary of Defense said it was about neutralizing threats to U.S. national interests from Iran's nuclear program. But the article highlights it's still unclear if the goal of fully neutralizing the enrichment facilities was actually met.
And the whereabouts of the enriched uranium.
Still unknown to U.S. officials, according to the source. Interestingly, the U.S. is already developing the next-gen bomber, the B-21 Raider. Similar, but smaller. Plans for at least 100 aircraft. So that signals future strategy.
Okay, from high-tech warfare down to the microscopic world for our final piece, a hidden battle unfolding. This text source focuses on Candida tropicalis,
an important fungal pathogen, high mortality rate, 55–60%, usually treated with azole antifungals like fluconazole.
But clinics are seeing an alarming rise in drug-resistant strains. And what's driving it? This is really interesting. A paper in PLS Biology points the finger at an azole-related fungicide called tebuconazole.
The stuff used by farmers and gardeners.
Exactly. It accumulates in the environment and apparently drives the very resistance we're seeing in clinical infections.
Wow. And how does the resistance work? What's the mechanism?
The team uncovered something fascinating. The resistant strains showed aneuploidy. Their chromosome number was off, different from the normal count. It's called ploidy-plasticity.
Aneuploidy. In humans, that usually causes serious problems like Down syndrome.
Right. But Candida tropicalis actually uses these chromosome changes to its advantage. The researchers exposed susceptible strains to increasing tebuconazole levels, and the resistant colonies that emerged showed cross-resistance to clinical drugs like fluconazole.
So there must be a trade-off, right? What do they lose?
That's the intriguing part. The resistant strains grew slower than the originals when there were no antifungals around. But in the presence of antifungals, they grew much better.
So they sacrificed some growth speed for drug resistance. Clever, in a way.
Yeah. The article details the genetics. Some strains had duplications of chromosome segments with genes like TAC1, which helps pump out the toxic azoles. Others had deletions of segments with the HMG1 gene, boosting production of ergosterol, a cell membrane component that helps resist azoles.
And these changes made them more dangerous.
The researchers confirmed these altered strains were more virulent in mice treated with fluconazole. And sort of serendipitously, they also found stable haploid strains of C. tropicalis among the resistant ones, strains capable of mating.
Haploid. That's significant for genetic analysis.
Definitely. Provides new tools. And they even found these naturally occurring in clinical isolates.
So, connecting this all back, the conclusion is pretty stark, isn't it?
It is. The reckless use of these triazole antifungals in agriculture is unwittingly promoting the emergence of pathogenic strains cross-resistant to vital clinical drugs.
And the fact they found mating-capable haploid strains means these resistance mechanisms can spread, mixing into new genetic backgrounds, expanding the problem.
The source ends with that powerful warning. Sow the wind, reap the whirlwind. It really highlights how actions in one area, like agriculture, can have profound unintended consequences elsewhere, like global public health and fighting infectious diseases.
A critical link between environment and health.
Absolutely. Today we've explored how a reset in one area can unexpectedly trigger a cascade of new challenges, from the geopolitical to the microscopic. It makes you wonder, in our constant pursuit of solutions, what unforeseen next crises are we inadvertently laying the groundwork for right now?
A sobering thought to end on.
Thank you for listening. If today's deep dive gave you something useful, consider following us on Spotify so you're the first to hear the next one. You can give suggestions by contacting on Twitter handle given in the episode description. We are always eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.